Okay, as we tap into the holiday spirit, let's create some festive Christmas decorations, commonly known as baubles or ornaments. For this project, we will combine simple modeling techniques and the power of geometrynodes to craft these ornaments procedurally. This project file is also available on my Gumroad. You can download it using the link in the description. We'll start with the blank render scene and focus first on modeling the bauble. Let's get started. To create our Christmas ornament, we'll start with the basic UV sphere. Switch to edit mode and let's start on the cap for the bauble. First, remove the top vertex of the sphere to create an open space. Then use extrusion to shape the cap gradually. Do a small extrusion as well to add detail. And finally, use the grid fill to seal the top neatly, and if your grid fill result is not aligned with the other vertices, you can rotate the grid fill through the pop-up menu in the bottom left corner. Next, we'll add some loop cuts for consistency across the cap surface and use beveling on some edges to smoothen out. With that said, it's time to create the cap handle. For this, use the spin tool, setting it to rotate 180 degrees along the y-axis. After spinning, make sure to merge any intersecting vertices. Switch to X-ray mode, and if you see any overlapping faces remaining, delete those unwanted faces to clean things up. Now it's time to add the string to our bauble. Start with the curved circle and shape it to hang naturally around half the height of the bauble. Once you're happy with the string shape, add volume to it by adjusting the geometry properties. Then convert it to mesh. Join the string with the bauble to complete the ornament structure. With the string in place, you can further adjust its shape using proportional editing. Shape it into a form that feels right to you. Finally, set the ornament's origin point to the top of the string. To finish off, apply an auto smooth and subdivision surface modifier to add that smoothness to the ornament's geometry. Now that the geometry is complete, let's add materials to the ornament to give it some personality. Since the entire ornament is a single object, I'll use material slots to assign different materials to a specific part of the mesh. I'll create 3 slots, one for the string, one for the cap, and one for the bauble. Starting with the string and the cap, I've kept the material shader simple. Both material primarily use a metallic finish with a low roughness value to give them a shiny reflective appearance resembling a metal. We can even use those two materials alternately. Next, for the bauble itself, I use a gradient texture to achieve a smooth gradient effect. I adjusted the colors using a color ramp to create a nice transition between the colors. As the color ramp uses constant interpolation, the contrast between colors is too apparent. To soften the transition, I will use the white noise texture to blur the gradient space factor. So I made several other ornaments. For these ornaments, I simply use an image texture for the bubbles. But before applying the textures, first you need to unwrap the UVs to make sure the textures map correctly onto the geometry. Once all the ornaments are ready, organize them into a single collection. I named the collection baubles as we will reference this collection later in the geometry node setup. Now let's take our ornaments to the next level by incorporating geometry nodes and creating a dynamic cable design. First, clear the workspace by moving the bubbles out of the way. We will begin by setting up a curve to serve as the base for our geometry nodes. Enter edit mode, delete the default curve and access the toolbar by pressing D. Use the draw curve tool to sketch out the desired path for your cable. With the curve in place, switch to the geometry node editor and create a new geometry node setup. Start by adding a curved circle, which we will use to define the cable's cross-section. Set the circle's resolution to 8. To preview the setup, hold Ctrl-Shift and click on the node you're working on. Next, use the Transform Geometry node to adjust the position of the curved circle. Duplicate the circle 2 more times, position them appropriately, and join them using the Join Geometry node. This will create the foundation of our cable's profile. We will fine-tune their position later. For simplicity, organize and group the node to make the setup more visually manageable. Once the basic profile is ready, convert the curve into a mesh using the Curve to Mesh node. Connect the drawn curve as the path and the curved circle as the profile to generate the cable shape. Use another Transform Geometry node to scale the mesh, setting the value to 0.015. Now we will make each cable to look like it intertwined with each other by adding a set curve tilt node so we can start to rotate the cable. However, this will only rotate the entire cable at once. So to rotate the cable by segment, we will utilize the index node and plug it into the tilt value. To make it to twist even more, we need to add the number of segments or the number of index of the cable. It can be achieved by using the Resemble Curve node. Increase the count to around 75 works for my curve. You need to adjust the value depends on your curve. Now adjust each translation of the curved circles to add some randomness to the cable's appearance. To smooth out the mesh, add a subdivision surface node. This will give the cable a polished look. Now let's integrate the baubles into the setup. Use an instance on point node to attach the bauble to the cable. Add a Join Geometry node to ensure both the cable and the baubles are visible. distribute the baubles include the distribute points on faces node, and set the mode to poison disk. Enable separate children and reset children option, as well as pick instance to ensure each bubble appear as an individual instance. If the bubble intersect, use a transform geometry node to adjust their scale. Fine-tune the density max for crowding and the distance mean for spacing between bubbles. For a more natural look, add random rotation to the bubbles. Use the normal input with an align to vector node, connecting it to the rotation socket. Set the alignment to the Z-axis and introduce subtle randomness with a vector math node and a random value node. Adjust the minimum to negative 0.25 and the maximum values to 0.25. Finally, let's add some color to the cable. Insert a set material node and create a new material in the shader editor. Name it cable and adjust its properties to make it dark green with a slight shine. With everything in place, now you have a stunning Christmas ornament setup. You can simply draw a curve and ornaments will automatically pop up along its path. A perfect way to quickly generate holiday decorations. That's all for the tutorial. Hope you learned something new. Until the next tutorial.